I'm Phil. That's Sam.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We are Bars and Barbells.
That's right. And today we're checking out the 10 scariest players in NFL history.
Ooh.
And we got
Spooky.
yeah, Sam, she loves to be spooked, let me tell you. That's why I always creep up behind her when she's not ready for it and scream in her ear, and that's always fun for me.
And I usually have a mini heart attack.
Yep. Got to keep her on her toes, right, guys? So today, I don't think we're going to get to experience that type of scary. We're going to get to experience some of these eyes here, or some intensity in the hits, or maybe just intensity of knowing that opponent is on the other side of the field. And Ray Lewis here is on the screen. He's a player that I'm not surprised if he's included in this list, because he was a force that was, I think, around for like 17 years still, as he was older, 36, 37, I think, around there, and he was still pretty dominant as a linebacker, which is unheard of in the NFL. But I don't think Sam even knows who Ray Lewis is.
Does he play for the Ravens?
He did.
Okay, yeah, I've heard that name before. I remember he was like really popular when I was in university.
Yes.
And everybody was like, because we were the same, my school's colors were the same as the Ravens. Everybody would always like correlate it.
Got it. Okay, so you do know who Ray Lewis is, and he's also a motivational guy, motivational speaker. He's really well known for just coming up with things to say at the right time, and that's why he was looked at as a great leader. So
we love those.
Anyways, that's one person. Don't know who else is going to be on this list. It's probably going to be foreign for you, not as foreign for me. I did watch a lot of NFL growing up, but you did not, right? You just played a little bit of football here and there, and
I had periods where I would watch a little bit, but I was never like a diehard fan.
All right, well,
my mom and brother love football too, so that was kind of sprinkled in there. I've like been to a couple games, but
yeah. All right. Well, let's find out about the 10 scariest players. If you've got other recommendations for content, drop it down low in the comment section. Let's find out who's on the list.
From playing mind games before kickoff to delivering career-ending hits, a special group of players have kept opponents up at night with their terrorizing behavior. These are the 10 scariest players in NFL history.
I know
No other player had a more
Lawrence
iconic
Taylor.
way of instilling fear in the eyes of his opponents than Ray Lewis. And he did it before the game even started. His pregame entrance was a declaration of war. From a guy who said that every time he stepped on the field, he was Maximus from Gladiator, as Lewis would emerge from a smoky tunnel with fire blazing all around him before partaking in something that looked like a scene from his favorite movie. Opposing teams shuddered.
When that whistle blow, we unleash hell today. When that whistle blow, we unleash hell.
Because they knew what was coming. 60 minutes of bone-crushing hits from number 52. Sports Science said the only reason he didn't break his opponent's bones on every hit is because the shoulder pads absorbed 50% of the force. Lewis was so powerful that he didn't even have to be locked in on a player to lay them out. Having shared a division with him for many years, former Bengals wide receiver Chad Ochocinco decided that he had finally had enough of Lewis's reign of terror. While Lewis had his eyes on the ball, Ochocinco tried to get payback for countless brutal hits with a blindside shot on the linebacker. Yet, despite paying no attention to Ochocinco, Lewis leveled him to the ground like it was nothing and left the wideout gasping for air.
When Rudy's coming, I tried to blindside Ray. He ran me over.
Consider it a lesson to never test one of the most vicious to ever do it.
He wasn't looking and still ran through me. And unfortunately, the concussion set in. I tried to pretend like nothing happened.
Along with making every hit count, it wasn't just quality over quantity for Lewis. To this day, he is still the NFL's all-time leader in career solo and combined tackles, with 1,568 and 2,059.
That's a lot of
Having a
tackles.
"this is war" mentality is definitely something that the terrorizing Jack Tatum could relate to, but there was nothing even remotely close to civilized about his play. Tatum developed a reputation for being absolutely ruthless with his hits, and sometimes even crossing the line. Because of this, he became known as the Assassin, and for good reason.
Fiercest hitter at safety ever, and Jack Tatum, aforementioned by me, fiercest hitter in the game.
assassin.
Yep, the assassin.
During a 1978 preseason game, on an incomplete pass over the middle, he paralyzed Patriots wide receiver Darryl Stingley from the chest down. Not only were people furious that Tatum paralyzed another player, they couldn't believe it happened during a meaningless preseason game. And to make matters worse, Tatum never apologized for the hit.
I'd just like to, wish Darryl, a full and speedy recovery and send him my best wishes.
and even went as far as saying this: "I understand why Daryl is considered the victim, but I'll never understand why some people look at me as the villain." While this response may come as a bit of a shock, Tatum's idea of a good hit sheds some light on his approach to the game. "My idea of a good hit is when the victim wakes up on the sideline, train whistles blowing in his head. I like to believe that my best hits border on felonious assault." Despite public blowback, Tatum refused to change his hard-hitting ways. A year after it, he was face-to-face with one of the game's most powerful running backs in Earl Campbell. Tatum met him head-on at the goal line, and even though Campbell managed to stumble into the end zone, the collision left a lasting impact. "The lick I took from Jack Tatum, that's the only time I ever felt somebody hit me," Campbell said. "A shock went down to the heels of my feet, and it burned. When I was standing on my head in my end zone, nobody knew this, but I was thinking, something's wrong." A year later, one of Campbell's doctors watched the collision and believed it caused him spinal problems that plagued him long after his career was over.
Jeez.
Tatum's hits will live forever in infamy, but they're still not the most famous hits in NFL history. That distinction belongs to arguably the greatest defensive player ever, Lawrence Taylor. With the football world tuned into a 1985 Monday Night Football game between the Giants and Redskins, Taylor, on a single play, changed the sport forever. As Washington ran a flea flicker, Taylor saw right through the trickery and pounced on QB Joe Theismann like a jungle cat. Taylor and a handful of players immediately signaled to the sideline for help, as Theismann was in excruciating pain and unable to get up. Having broken both bones in his lower leg, Theismann never played another snap. Because of that play and Taylor's overall dominance at the position, teams at all levels began placing on emphasis on the left tackle position to protect the quarterback's blind side. Although the play ultimately defined his career, Taylor's accolades should be just as memorable. As the iconic John Madden put it, he changed the way defenses played, the way pass rushing is played, the way linebackers play, and the way offenses block linebackers. As a 10-time Pro Bowler, Taylor became just the second defender to win the league's MVP award. He was also named Defensive Player of the Year 3 times. Legendary coach Bill Belichick served as Taylor's defensive coordinator with the Giants and said, "What makes LT so great, what makes him so aggressive, is his total disregard for his body." Belichick even went as far as to declare him the best defensive player he's ever coached by a good margin. And while Taylor had no intentions of ending Theismann's career, the same cannot be said for when Hall of Fame linebacker Dick Butkus was out there. According to fellow Hall of Famer...
So, some pretty scary guys out on the field thus far.
I have a question before we talk
Sure.
about that. What's a flea flicker?
Of course you would ask that because there's some animal reference in there. A flea flicker is when you hand the ball off to the running back and they start running forward, and then the running back stops and they throw it back to the quarterback, and then
like
the
a trick
quarterback
play.
throws it. Yeah, it's trick play.
Okay.
But you
It
think
just had a funny name.
Yes. So the flea flicker led to an unfortunate injury there.
Oh my God, it's crazy. People paralyzing people and messing up their spines and like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really hear as much about it anymore. I mean, I guess that's some of the rule changes that they've talked about in here. And they talk about Lawrence Taylor, how that defined his career. Obviously not, because he went on to win so many different awards. But you could even see like he was the one that was waving over the sideline to the sidelines.
Well, completely different response than the guy before him. The Tatum guy they were talking about, that guy seems like a psychopath.
I mean, yeah, I agree. Like the remorse wasn't there.
The quotes is what I'm referring to.
Oh, the quotes.
He
Yeah.
says.
I mean, but when he said they had him on the camera there, he was like, I wish the guy a recovery. It's not like he was like, he had what was coming to him.
Okay, no, but also like he basically says he wants to like demolish human beings, and that's a good hit.
I think that's a mentality that you kind of have to have though, because you're out there to hit people. The same as Ray Lewis said he was the gladiator, right? So,
Yeah, fair.
I think if you're going to be an elite defensive player, that has to be somewhat, maybe as you said, not to that degree, but it's hard to, I think, separate. Remember, we've talked about fighters before, and when you get in that
Yeah, that's fair.
arena, it's very hard to separate the two. Anyways, I just wanted to make a quick mention as well that Bill Belichick, they talked about him there, and how lucky as a coach has he been. Had Tom Brady,
Yes.
best quarterback ever,
Coach some of the best.
the GOAT of all time, or the GOAT of all time. Let's get that straight. GOAT is the greatest of all time.
The goat of all time.
The GOAT in Tom Brady, and recognized as the best quarterback, potentially the best player, but then you also have the best defensive player. So on both sides of the ball, he's coached, two of the best players in NFL history. Now, maybe that's a credit to him as well. Maybe made those players better, but, not a bad resume to have in terms of players.
Deacon Jones,
he was an animal, and he was a well-conditioned animal, and every time he hit you, he tried to put you in the cemetery, not the hospital.
this savage playing style and mindset came from Butkus's unique warm-up routine. When I went out on the field to warm up, I would manufacture things to make me mad, he said. If someone on the other team was laughing, I'd pretend he was laughing at me or the Bears. I'd find something to get mad about. It always worked for me. But opposing players were definitely never laughing at Butkus, because in reality, they were deathly afraid of him.
Told me he was going to kick my... You know what? The first time I ever played against him, a rookie year.
As former Packers running back MacArthur Lane once put it, if I had a choice, I'd sooner go one-on-one with a grizzly bear than with Butkus. I prayed that I could get up every time Butkus hit. In addition to laying the boom on guys like Lane, Butkus led one of the NFL's all-time greatest defenses and tackles for 8 straight seasons. Jack Lambert was another linebacker in charge of one of the league's most terrorizing defenses ever, serving as the face of the Steel Curtain. And it was an unforgettable face, to say the least.
What a
Missing
great
his
name,
4
Steel
upper front
Curtain.
teeth, Lambert's toothless snarl was the perfect representation of his playing style. Before becoming a legend, John Elway in his first career game had to go up against Lambert's Steelers. It was a moment that Elway would never forget, and one he couldn't wait to end. He had no teeth and he was slobbering all over himself, Elway said. I'm thinking, you can have your money back, just get me out of here. I can't tell you how badly I wanted out of there. Nicknamed Dracula in cleats, Lambert's motto was, we're the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're supposed to be the intimidators. He did everything he could to live up to this, even if it meant almost getting thrown out of the Super Bowl. In Super Bowl X, Cowboys safety Cliff Harris taunted Steelers kicker Roy Girella by patting him on the head following a missed field goal. Lambert responded immediately by body slamming Harris to the ground. After the game, he explained the move by saying, when I see injustice, I try to do something about it. Lambert never shied away from confrontation and always had his teammates' backs. His bold attitude and fearless play inspired teammates and propelled them to 4 Super Bowl victories in just 6 seasons.
Wow.
That's crazy.
And with just as cool a nickname as Dracula in cleats, Dick Night Train Lane was never supposed to make this list, let alone play in the NFL. Lane played just 1 season of junior college football before serving in the U.S. Army for 4 years. After being discharged from the Army, he happened to pass by the Los Angeles Rams office on his bus ride to work. Despite a total lack of experience playing the sport at a high level, Lane decided to stop in and asked to try out as a receiver. The team was so blown away by his raw athleticism that they gave him a spot. Lane eventually switched to defensive back, and the Rams quickly fell in love with his ferocious playing style. It didn't take long for the rest of the league to become familiar with this, as the NFL had to create rules against Lane's brutal tackling style. He became known for wrapping players around the neck or grabbing their face mask and slinging them to the ground. People started calling the move the Night Train necktie. In 1961, he tackled John Arnett by the face mask while he was running at full speed and left him lying motionless on the field. The next year, the NFL made a rule prohibiting grabbing the face mask to make a tackle. They later banned a tackle around the head and neck, or what was called a clothesline tackle, largely because of Night Train. For Lane, there was no malicious intent with it, explaining, my object is to stop the guy before he gains another inch. I'm usually dealing with ends who are trying to catch passes, and if I hit them in the legs, they may fall forward for a first down. There's nothing I hate worse than a first down. In addition to wreaking havoc with his tackling style, Lane was also a menace as a ball hawk. To this day, he still holds the NFL record for most interceptions in a season with 14, somehow doing so in only 12 games.
What?
But Lane isn't the only player on this list who also finds himself all over the NFL record book. And while most people associate scary...
Well, I think we should come up with a new fashion line called the Night Train necktie.
That's crazy. 14 interceptions in 12 games?
Yeah, that is wild. I mean, I don't know. Maybe, quarterbacks were very bad at that point too, but that is wild. 14 in 12 games, obviously more than 1 a game. So I don't know if that'll ever be broken. I doubt it.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's also wild to me that he just decided to, I'm not going to go to work today. I'm going to go try out for the NFL.
Yeah, that wouldn't happen now. That's for
Clearly
sure.
it worked out for him.
And pretty cool nickname in Dracula.
Dracula in cleats.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he's pretty scary. This slobbering through his gums.
Yeah, I mean, there's some pretty cool nicknames throughout this. I mean, they kind of like, you could have somebody that's really intimidating and they give them a terrible nickname.
Yeah.
And it's like, why would you ever say that? It's like when somebody's called tiny and they're huge. It's like, these are, far and above. They've got some quality nicknames.
You think they do justice to the players? They do justice to the players.
Yeah, I mean, well, think about it. Like
Dracula.
You come to the field and you're like, about Dracula with cleats. It's like, who the hell is that? He's got like no teeth, bro. He's gonna knock you the hell out. It's like, of course, you'd be like, right away, you'd be like, oh my god, who the hell is Dracula with no teeth? I mean, Dracula with cleats. You know what I mean?
Dracula with cleats and no teeth.
I guess that was kind of true too. Anyways, let's keep it going.
List who also finds himself all over the NFL record book. And while most people associate scary football players with defenders, this guy actually played on the other side of the ball. Throughout his career, Jim Brown made sure that the opposing team always saw him in the warm-ups. He said, knowing that they'd been told all about me all week and how they'd have to watch out for me and how they'd have to plan to stop me and gang tackle me, I challenged them by saying, this is the guy, man, take a look. Here it is, right now, 232 pounds, 6 foot 2 inches. I can beat you in a 40 and I got attitude. The attitude is, you're gonna hit me and I'm gonna hit you. What could be mistaken for an arrogant mindset by Brown was a well-earned, confident swagger. He knew that he was nearly impossible to bring down, as he led the league in rushing in 8 out of his 9 seasons.
Wow.
Unfortunately for Brown's opponents, this unbelievable feat wasn't just the result of him just outrunning them. Saying that he viewed football as the closest civilized thing to war,
No.
Brown would often bulldoze his opponents. His famous line was, make sure when anyone tackles you, he remembers how much it hurts. And his opponents sure did remember it, as Brown set the all-time record for most career rushing yards with 12,312, yards per carry with 5.2, and rushing touchdowns with 106. It's been more than 50 years since he retired, and his record of career rushing yards per game still stands at 104.3. Not only has it stood the test of time, but no other player has even cracked the 100 yards per game mark since.
That's insane.
And while Brown was always a superstar on the gridiron, James Harrison's journey to making this list is a true underdog story. Undersized at only 6 feet tall, Harrison was released 3 different times as a rookie, but instead of giving up on his dream, he used those setbacks as inspiration and fuel to become one of the strongest and most durable players the game has ever seen. It also led Harrison to never taking his foot off the gas on the field.
My objective when tackling someone was to put them out of that game. I didn't want to injure them, but I wanted them to hurt.
Even if he was going up against a close friend. In the same 2010 game against the Browns, Harrison knocked out 2 different Cleveland wide receivers, in Josh Cribbs and Mohamed Massaquoi. Wow. Describing his approach, Harrison explained, I tried to hurt people. I never tried to injure anyone. I tried to hurt people. I wanted them not to be able to finish the game. When I hit my homeboy Josh Cribbs, I felt like when I hit him, that hurt. I want to be able to say, I got you. Then, while talking years later about the hit on Massaquoi, he said, I hit Massaquoi with about 50%, bro. Dead serious. I just wanted him to let go of the ball. If I would have known then what I found out after, I'd have gave him everything I had. If I'd known they was going to fine me $75,000 for that, I would have laid into him. He might not have gotten off that field. As Harrison got older, neither his viciousness nor his otherworldly strength faded. While most defenders don't play past 39, he was still lighting up opposing wide receivers and going viral for his workout videos. A workout video from 2017 showed him doing 675-pound hip thrusts, hang cleans, and reverse lunges at 315, 405-pound decline presses, 225-pound overhead triceps extensions, and 1,800-pound sled pushes. Another player who used superhuman strength to become a total nightmare for opposing teams was Reggie White. As former Eagles wide receiver Mike Quick put it, he could take a 320-pound man and just toss him like it was nothing. The funniest thing is to see a 320-pound man just being tossed, and I've never seen anything like that. And not only only did White have this freakish strength, but he had speed and athleticism that allowed him to play defensive end while moving like a linebacker. Herm Edwards, who played with White on the Eagles, said, "I'd never seen anyone that big and that strong who could move that fast. He was so explosive. He drove blockers back like they were on roller skates." This extremely rare combination of speed and strength made him essentially unblockable, as he retired as the league's all-time sack leader with 198. According to former Eagles linebacker Gary Cobb, he never saw the kind of fear in the eyes of a lineman, the way they used to be afraid of blocking Reggie. And similar to White, the final player on this list also relied on a unique combo of speed and strength. But standing at 5'11" and weighing 244 pounds, Earl Campbell shouldn't have been able to do what he did. Being that thick and condensed, it was no surprise that he could and would often run defenders over, punishing them with his aggressive play. But the crazy thing about him was that he was just as fast as he was strong. People his size aren't supposed to have 4.6 40-yard dash times. Campbell ran angry out there, and with his massive 36-inch thighs, he never went down without a fight. The team's equipment manager joked that they made 4 sizes of thigh pads: small, medium, large, and Earl Campbell. No moment shows just how powerful Campbell was than a play from when he was only a rookie. He met Rams All-Pro linebacker Isaiah Robinson in the hole with a head-on collision that left the defender flat on his back.
Wow.
Campbell then shredded another tackler who held on for dear life and was left with nothing but a piece of his jersey as Campbell kept charging forward. He was a human wrecking ball out there, just demolishing opposing defenders. Legendary Steelers linebacker Joe Green claimed that Campbell could inflict more damage than any other running back he's ever faced. Former Cowboys safety Cliff Harris agreed, saying, "When you finished a game against Earl, you had to sit in a tub with Epsom salts." And despite constantly using his body to deliver beatings to opposing players, Campbell, throughout his career, only missed 6 games due to an injury. A testament to his next-level toughness.
That's crazy. Wow, these people are wild.
Yeah, it was the 10 scariest players, finished with Earl Campbell there. And like, as soon as I saw the dude's thighs, I was like, what the hell is that? 245 and 5'10"?
Yeah.
I was like, you're going to have some lower body mass, but geez.
36-inch thighs.
Yeah, that's insane. There's some women out there who probably wish they had some 36-inch thighs.
So who do you think was the scariest?
I don't know. It's hard to say because I think we didn't get a lot of visuals and insights on some of the players on the list. Like, they kind of went over Ray Lewis relatively quickly and Reggie White relatively quickly. And then, like, you know, same thing with Dick Butkus. Like, he looked like he was pretty
scary.
He looked really big compared to everybody else at that time too.
I think that's another thing that's challenging, right? Like all of these people from such different times that you don't really know how they would compare to each other, like at the same time.
Yeah, even Jim Brown that they were talking about there, the running back. I've heard his name before, but I didn't really know he was so dominant. Like 8 out of 9 seasons led the league, and has the best rush yards per game, and like so like you were saying, it's kind of hard when you talk about the best running back ever because this guy just dominated every single season he played, and it's like you can't do any more than that. But then people today will say, you know, there's running backs that are more modern that are better, and you know the same is true for every position in every sport. So I think it's hard to pick one,
especially in a sport that's always evolving and rules are changing and all of those things, right?
Yeah, and like I think at that time, you know, in certain periods, a really big player wouldn't just be so dominant because now I think there's a lot more players that are, you know, bigger, stronger in the league as a whole. So that discrepancy in size isn't going to be as much. Yeah. But even just, you know, with the Super Bowl, the Philadelphia won, the Eagles, right? And their offensive line, I think, was the biggest in the league by far. And so, you know, that's an example of, you know, how size can really dominate in today's day and age,
strength.
right?
Like even that guy they were showing on all his like
James
max
Harrison?
lifts. I was like, holy.
Yeah, and I think that was after he retired.
Yeah.
Which is insane because most players can't even like move half the time after they retire. But I was just going to say about Earl Campbell, the last guy that we got into, the running back there. It's interesting because like with running backs, so often they have a short career because they're getting hit every single play. right? And it makes sense. You have guys that are 300 pounds that are hitting you,
Yeah.
or 250, and usually you're the smaller guy at like 220 or whatever, right? In that instance, I was thinking about it. I was like, man, it would suck to hit that guy. You know what I mean? Like,
Like bounce off
if
him.
you know every single play, he's going to get the ball like 20, 25 times. And
Yeah.
you're like, I got to tackle this guy like 5 times today.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He's running at you full speed and you're
Yeah.
like 250 pounds. It's like, that's, you're going to be hurting. Like they were saying at the end of the game, you're going to have,
Yeah,
bumps
it's a pretty
and bruises.
hefty collision.
Yeah, I just remember like when I was playing soccer, football, right? Like, European football. And, I made it a point in some games to be physical, have contact with
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
And you'd be sore at the end of the game.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
your shoulders would be a little bit sore or whatever. And these guys are literally trying to hit each other every single time. And they're like,
Full capacity.
yeah, massive. So
Crazy.
I can see why their careers are generally pretty short.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you have one that stood out to you the most?
They're all scary in different ways.
So this lived up to the hype in the 10 scariest players.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I think the one thing I found really cool was just seeing different people from different time periods, because you don't really think about that when you think about, obviously you think about that when you're a fan of the sport, but like when you're just kind of like briefly introduced to something, like if I think about NFL, I think about it now, right? Or like more modern, but like
Yep.
they've been playing this forever, and you have to think of how many good people there's been over that period of time, right? So
Yeah. Let us know who you think is the scariest down below. Most dominant, I guess you could probably argue, is Lawrence Taylor. But let us know down below in the comment section what you think. Let us know if there's other videos you want us to check out. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next one.
thanks for watching.